We got a big time matchup coming up. Number one Georgia versus number four Ohio State college football playoff. I kind of feel like Georgia threw the sword under the straw in this one by pulling Ohio State instead of TCU. And Georgia's favored by 6.5. And I think the pressure on this game is going to fall on Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State. And his overall record is 45-5, which is not bad. Most teams would gladly take a coach that can get them 45-5 over a 50 game span. But the problem is four of those five losses are against teams that are kind of in the big time. Like in 2019, he had that Fiesta Bowl loss to Clemson. In 2020, a national championship, and you got another one to Alabama, and then lost to Michigan in 2021 and 2022. And then, of course, that was an upset in 2020. I want to say it was the Oregon, if I remember right. So when it comes to the big games, Ryan Day's starting to kind of get on the hot seat because he's not winning these big games. He's beating the teams he's supposed to, but he's kind of becoming the Mark Richt of, he's not going to win you the big one. And, he needs to win the big one. Like if he loses to Georgia, the pressure's going to be on him. And, they may start calling for his job just a little bit sooner, you would think, because when you're at Ohio State, the expectation is to win the national championship. It's not, just to get there. Like you take a team like TCU, they're going to be happy just to be there. But Ohio State's going to be satisfied with just being there. They want to, the Ohio State fans want to get there. They want to win it. They want to be, number one. And, a lot of them weren't too happy about the loss to Michigan, especially in the way it happened. But, luck came out and they're back in the playoffs. This would be a chance for Ryan Day to redeem himself. And, Ohio State, the offense goes through, Stroud, 37 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, very good quarterback. There's a chance they get Travion Henderson back for the game. In the Ohio State Michigan game, it came down to where, Trip Trainum was getting the carries for Ohio State. And, that can't really, happen. They need Henderson to come back for the game to, probably put their best foot forward. As, Georgia's one of the best teams in the country, got, one of the top defenses. Uh, when it comes to the over under for the over under is at 61.5. And I kind of feel like Georgia's going to limit Ohio State to, probably more like a Michigan type where, I think it's going to be very, a chance that they could get under this number because I could see the losing team maybe putting up in the 20s. It'll come down to the situational football, like converting on third downs and, turnovers. I feel like the winning team's going to have in the 30s and the losing team's going to be in the 20s. So I'd be real cautious on this over under. If you could buy maybe 3 points with it, I would definitely take that because I think you're going to need it. And, now we're going to talk about Georgia. And it kind of feel like Kirby Smart is starting to slowly overtake Nick Saban as the new, you know, big coach of football. Got the big team. And Georgia's recruited very well the last few years. They do got a little bit of offensive deficiencies at times. They're not always tip top when it comes to offense. But that defense is, stout as, they got two shutouts on the year, gave up six there. The defense comes to play. And the most points they've given up in any game all season has been, that 30 to LSU in the SEC title game. And, Georgia, they took on Tennessee, earlier Tennessee, with Hendon Hooker, Josh Heupel, that electric offense. They just came out and put their foot down on Tennessee. And, that kind of showed that Georgia, I think, can, they can play with some of these dynamic offenses. They're not just, they're beating teams that they're, much better talent wise. But when it comes to some explosive offense, they're showing that they can, get there and hang with them. And Georgia plays their brand of football. They don't get caught up into that, Texas shootout game where it's just back and forth. Like Georgia's going to make you play their football game. I think them and Michigan are very, similar teams. They both control the line of scrimmage. They both, will, if they need to throw it to be able to win the game, they definitely got the talent to be able to throw it. But they're not always, going to rely on throwing it. They're going to try to run the ball. Georgia's got a three-headed running attack on their team. And they got McIntosh, Edwards, and Milton. They all got over 500 yards and, 6, 7, and 10 touchdowns. So Georgia will, spread the ball around to its running backs. Stetson Bennett, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. There are some times when I've watched him play that some of his throws just, does not always have his A game. It's good enough to win. I think, he's not the best quarterback in the world. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman even though he's a finalist, but, certainly average. But, the defense is Georgia's, call it when they really come to play. They got Khalil Ringo, one of the top corners. He's certainly going to have his hands full in that game into trying to match up against the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr. and, Mika Ibuka. And that's going to be a real intriguing matchup. See how Georgia's corners do because they're probably going to be, left on an island with them, especially on some of the early downs. I think, Georgia's probably going to try to make Ohio State one dimensional, put the game in Stroud's hands. And I think with Stroud, he's a very good quarterback, but I don't think they win the game if he has to throw the ball 50 times. I go back and look in the Michigan game; he had to throw 48 times, and that's not going to be the recipe for success to win that game. As obviously lost to Michigan, who kind of plays a similar brand of football, like I said. So I think that you know, Ohio State wants to probably make this more 50-50 and try to, be more of a run first attack. And I think that's if they can do that, they, could potentially have some success. But, my pick for the game is I think Georgia's going to come out and just, dominate this game and, put forth their best effort. They showed that, they can play with anybody. And I think Jalen Carter, is going to create capital defenses. And, in the SC title game, that was a cool moment where he picked up LSU's quarterback and, held his finger up. Like that was, one of the trash talking moments of the football game. So, but I think Georgia, looking in the bigger picture, they definitely just short on the stick here because Georgia's going to, have to play Ohio State. And Ohio State, I'm not going to take nothing away from them. They're a very good football team, got a lot of talent. I think, their coach needs to step it up a little bit for them, especially in this game. But I think Georgia's going to exert a lot of, physicality trying to win this game. It's going to be definitely back and forth. They just ain't going to run away with it. And then, right after that, they get to draw Michigan, who's just a wear you down type football team. And I think Michigan's actually going to catch a little bit of a breather going against TCU. And I don't think TCU is, on the body of work, yeah, they're in the top four. But I think when it comes to, these other three teams are just not on the same level. So Michigan kind of draws the easier game physically. So I think Georgia's going to be potential spent from trying to beat Ohio State and have to catch Michigan with Michigan just, a physical football team. And, we'll see if that catches up to Georgia, if they can advance past Ohio State. But that's just kind of looking at the big picture. But, for my pick for this game, I'm going with Kirby Smart. He's starting to, become the number one coach of football, in my opinion. Starting to slowly maybe overtake Nick Saban as the, now team. Ryan Day's not the proof to, like I said, 4 of his 5 losses are in, big games. So he's got to turn that around. But I'm going to take Georgia to, cover, and we'll see how it goes. And thanks for watching, guys.